Hello and welcome to the show. I am here today going to be talking about Grid. Yes, this game has finally been released, or at least certainly if you have the Ultimate Edition of the game, and I've been playing quite a lot of it. Now, I was lucky enough to play a preview build and a couple of videos on preview build, and I actually got to take part in a preview event as well, but this is now talking about the actual full release version of which I am playing on Xbox. Now, of course, being previous stuff I've been playing on PC and everything being reset, I had to start career mode again. And started this yesterday and spent most of yesterday, got distracted and played my way through a decent chunk of it. I thoroughly enjoyed my time, really, with this one. This is the career mode. It's broken down into 6 different categories, if you will, that you work your way through, trying to get towards these kind of like special events at the end, and then you have the Grid World Series up at the top. There's a lot of content here. There's a lot of races to get through. There's a lot of, I mean, some of these are made up of up to 4 races. Some of them are just single round events, if you like. But there's a lot of racing to do here. You've got some special invitational events down at the bottom. The minis are brilliant fun, most definitely. In fact, car list wise for this, we can go and have a look, because let's do car list while I'm here, is pretty good. Car list is pretty damn good. Now, it's not the biggest car list you will ever see in a video game, but it covers a lot of bases. We've got some touring cars. We've got essentially sort of TCR cars. We have some V8 supercars, including a pretend Camaro that's wearing a Ford livery that I'm not sure anyone... I mean, I like... The Camaro is a cool thing, and maybe one day we will see the Camaro in the V8 supercars. But it's... I'm gonna... Yeah. But either way, it's there. It's a slightly fictional version, but it's kind of cool. And then we've got some kind of Group 5 cars, the Mad Group 5 cars. I haven't actually driven them ones as of yet, but they're cool to have. You've got your muscle cars, sort of your road-going stock cars. You've got your NASCAR trucks up to your sort of main oval racers. We've got tuner cars, your entry-level tuner cars that are slightly modified. You've got your quite heavily modified cars, and then you've got your World Time Attack cars that are bonkers and have the largest wings imaginable. I mean, look at the front splitter. Oh, well, I wouldn't say look at the front splitter on that when it loads in. There we go. Gloriously balmy. I like that. GT cars, you've got a selection of GT4 cars, essentially GT4 cars, and then a large field of GTE vehicles, up to a couple of DPI cars. Have driven those, they're good fun. I can't afford to buy them yet in the career mode, whoopsie. And then a selection of the invitational cars from a Formula 1 Renault to classic touring cars, which is nice to see. Some Group A cars in there as well, and there's even a peculiar Stratos that I can't say I've ever remember seeing anywhere. But, you know, it's a good car list. Oh, yeah, let's not forget Can-Am cars as well, because, of course, we do. It's a good selection of vehicles. It's not the largest car list. I can go through it in a couple of minutes, but there is a lot of variety. You can do a lot of different series, and you won't get bored with the vehicles. Let's go jump into a race. You know what? We haven't done this one. This seems like a pretty sensible place to start. Now, as I have got the special edition of the game, or whatever you get, given some Grid Edition cars. I think it's just a special livery on it, which has meant I haven't had to buy anything for this category, which is quite nice. So we're going to have a go with the Firebird. So the races are broken down, as I said. Some of them are single races, some of them are multiple race championships. This one here is a couple of races. Now, if you just load in, I can jump straight into the race here. We'd start from 14th on the grid. But this game has an interesting way of doing career mode events, and I have to say I very, very much like this. So I can press continue if I want to start the race, or I can go and do a qualify. Now, I can do this for any event that I want at pretty much any time, and you do get an unlimited attempt for qualifying. If you so wish, you can try and qualify as much as you like, and this will then reshuffle the grid into, well, the qualifying order. Apparently my teammate is going to be on pole if I don't go faster. Oh, this is a very technical little circuit that we've got some very big muscle cars on. That's going to be interesting. I actually quite like this track. It's an interesting circuit. I'm not sure I would have chosen the I would have chosen the big bicycle. These are not the easiest of things to drive around here. They are big, they are heavy, very easy to get sideways if you're a bit too much of a muppet with the throttle, and sometimes getting it slowed down is a little bit trickier. We are losing a bunch of time. This might not go to plan how I was hoping. The plan was I'd qualify fairly well up the order, certainly better than the 14th that we get given from the just normal default starting grid. I might actually end up qualifying worse. I will say the AI generally are much better at hot lapping than they are at racing. They tend to, I should have started from 14th. I will probably still be the fastest car in the field once we get racing. Partly because I get better. We were miles down. That's terrible. Partly because, the AI are faster in qualifying, generally speaking, than they are in the race. That's not great. We are now going to have to start from even further back. Well, my teammate's on pole. That's good. I don't actually know if your teammate wins it. I've never seen it. But if your teammate wins a championship, I don't know whether that counts for your progress or not. Either way, we're going to have a lot of overtaking to do. However, with the way that this game is structured, I'm not actually all that worried. The races aren't particularly long. Generally, what I will do with these career modes is the first race I will qualify for. My general hope is to be somewhere better on the grid than, 16th. Let's be honest here. We are going to try and sneak... Oh, they've caused chaos. Yes, that also helps when they do that. Because now we're up to 6th. Perfect. I could not have asked for a better start. But generally what I'll do is I will qualify for the first race and then won't bother qualifying for any subsequent ones, because the random grid will be sorted in reverse championship order. So, I'll say random grid, but the grid for the next race will be sorted in reverse championship order. So the fastest cars will go to the back. Now, if you choose to qualify for every event, it'll then be sorted by qualifying times, which means you'll have all the fast drivers constantly qualifying towards the top of the field. If you let the game do the reverse grid, you get a really mixed up championship, and that I very much like. It means if you have a bad race, it doesn't really matter. I think it doesn't really matter. If you have a bad race, it means you still have a chance. Yes, the way the points are skewed, you are going to want to be getting up higher positions. Oh, there's some bumping going on at the front, and my teammate's going to get turned around in front of the pack. I'll say thank you for that. Thank you, Nick. But it means if you have a bit of a bad race or something, it's not immediate, well, I guess I must restart this whole thing now. Nothing worse than a game in which you have to win every race to win a championship or progress or so on, because the AIs are going to finish in the same order every single time, and if you're not there, the same car will get second or first in every single race. I like having that little bit of randomness. Things go on. It makes the championships a bit more natural, because at the end of the day, you do get odd results, and B, just a bit more exciting, really. It does potentially at times make things, I say, a little easier. Certainly in some of the shorter championships, when, an AI, maybe I get third in the first race. The AI that takes victory will start in 16th for the next one, and sometimes they can have real trouble working their way through the field. Apparently Nick just wants to go sideways everywhere, and a Camaro caused chaos. The AIs have caused some chaos in this one, that's for sure. It can at times perhaps make things a little straightforward, but normally over the course of a longer championship it works itself out, and it's fun at the end of the day, and that is the important thing with this game, is it is good fun. We've got a couple more quarters to go. Nick is really struggling with that car. There's a lot of sideways firebird occurring. We will now head around the final. There's a lot of fire coming from mine. We will head around the final corner. Not go too wide. If you cut the corner, you can get penalties. You can get time added on to your finishing time and lose positions and so on. So I will not take too many liberties. There we go. We'll take victory. We'll earn money. Our teammate will earn money as well, depending on where they finish. Costs, if you manage to ding your car up, the more you ding the car up, the more it'll cost. And your teammate will take a portion of their earnings as well. There we go, 1-2 for our team. You see what I mean about the qualifying? They were running the 51s in qualifying, and they're in the 53s in the race, which is about what I did in qualifying. Don't ask. We managed to take a victory. We lead the way quite comfortably, of course, in the teams as well. So, I like the way the championships are structured. It makes for a fun game, basically. Handling physics. Let's move on to that as we head into the next race. So, this is a fun circuit. This is actually a good circuit for discussing things. So we'll start from the back of the field. This one should be a reverse race order because there's only 2 rounds of the championship. Handling physics on this game are arcadey, of course. Grid is an arcade racing game. Some people will turn their noses up at that because, yes, there are some actual race cars in this, but that's fine. It's nice to have some actual race cars and other actual vehicles and so on with an arcade handling model because it's a good handling model. At the end of the day, the important thing here is the game fun? And the answer to that is yes. If you've played the original Grid, this will be familiar to you. It's a similar sort of handling model. That's not to say it doesn't take some getting used to. Certainly the original Grid also took a little while to get the hang of. I don't know how better to explain it than it is, quite similar to the first Grid, and you will need to spend a little bit of time familiarising yourself. If you jump straight into it, it will feel a little bit difficult to get the hang of to start with. I will say in footage, when you look at footage, occasionally the cars look like they drive a bit funky. Now, I think that might just be the way the third-person camera sits that lets it out. When you drive it, everybody I have spoken to, everybody I've seen talk about it, enjoys, likes driving the cars on this game. I like driving the cars on this game. I think, as I said, yeah, maybe the camera angle might just... what's the word for it? Confuse slightly. It's good to drive. Basically, you will get the hang of it. Now, you have to be careful. While, yes, it is an arcade game, these cars can snap. They can cause you grief, and they're very difficult to recover. If you get one of these things sliding, certainly the faster, more powerful cars, they're very difficult to catch. These are not too bad. I mean, these are your entry-level muscle cars. Yes, they're big and heavy, and they feel quite heavy compared to some of the other vehicles, but ultimately they don't have the insane levels of power that some of the race cars have, and they don't have the same level of twitchiness. The F1000 cars, for example, are unbelievably fiddly to drive. They have a lot of grip, a lot of acceleration, no weight, and hell, just getting them to brake in a straight line can be interesting at times. This is a lot more forgiving. Some of the GT cars as well. If they snap sideways because you put a bit of power down a bit too much, a bit too early, it's very, very difficult to catch as they start sliding around. It's easy to twitch. It's something you're going to have to get used to. Contact as well between vehicles doesn't take much to get your car to spin. I have got much better the more I have played this game, but you cannot go for half-assed overtakes here. Half-assed overtakes up the inside that leads you clattering into the door of an AI car will often lead to you spinning around in a circle because you start losing your back end slightly. It's difficult to catch, and maybe there'll be someone else around to either assist you or you'll just lose it. You can't afford to go for half-assed overtakes. It does make you really think about your passes, especially on some of the shorter races, like that, for example. I have to get that done cleanly there. You can't really just bump your way past. You'll get away with a little contact, of course, but you've got to think. It makes for some interesting racing. It does certainly make for some interesting racing, and as I said, it is not an ultra-realistic simulator game, this, not at all, but that doesn't mean it isn't fun to go racing. We're going to have a really good run to the line here, but it is not going to be enough to get past. We'll take second. I mean, we win the championship, so that's more than good enough for me. In fact, I'm lucky I got second because the Camaro fell off at the final corner. That is going to be... It's a Pontiac 1-2, then a bunch of Camaros further back. My teammate, I don't think, moved up anywhere from the back of the grid. I got one position. We should still win the team's championship, though. We do, quite comfortably in the end. So, yeah, fun game to drive. Lots of interesting cars. I like the way the championships are laid out. The next thing we're going to talk about is AI, because the AI on this game are very, very interesting. They're very, very well made. There we go, we'll just go through. I like the little grid screen as well that we come to at the end. Where do we want to go? I don't want to go to time attack because that, funnily enough, won't have cars to be racing against. Let's go and jump into this. Sure, we'll stick with the modified class. We'll stick with the Datsun because I know this is going to be good. Ooh, that's a long circuit, or a longer circuit. Cool. It's a 3-round championship. I won't even bother with hot lap qualifying for this because we'll work our way back up through the order. Yes, the AIs. Now, the game has had a much sort of toted system of AI personalities. Don't necessarily worry too much about it. Essentially, AIs drive differently to one another. Some are complete arseholes. Some are actually very good fun to race with. Basically, the AI will attack and it will defend, as you would expect a race car to. The AI will, some AI, not every AI, but sometimes vehicles will go very defensive into corners, some cars will be more aggressive when they are trying to overtake, and that is tied to a driver name, if you like, a driver profile. As you can see ahead of us, I don't know, I have spent so many time jumping between championships with different cars, haven't got any specific memories of a particular driver yet, but you will, over time, certainly spend a lot of time in one particular championship in a go. There will be some cars that are just more difficult to overtake than others. And that's fun. That does make for some really very good racing. I've never driven this circuit, by the way. I don't really know where I'm going. There is a bad place. Oh, that's what I was talking about, the half-arse overtake, bouncing off the door. Don't do it, you're an idiot. But yeah, you get these very different AI, I say driving styles. You will have big battles with an AI car. Someone will not want to give up a position. Someone will be more aggressive than others. There is a nemesis system as well. Basically, if you clatter, this looks like trouble, doesn't it? If you clatter into an AI car trying to make a pass, into the door, into the back of them because you outbraked yourself, sometimes they will become your... basically, you hit them hard enough, they'll become your nemesis. That means, well, they don't like you very much. And that means they will do everything in their power to try and keep you behind. They will then become ultra defensive, or if they are behind you, they will really, really want to overtake you. And if that leads to a little bit of contact for you, well, so be it. They don't much care about that. I thought that might actually give me one for him, but apparently not. Oh, see that there with the BRZ. That car there will fight me more than perhaps some of the other cars will. Are we going to be able to get past? No, you're going to slip and slide. I want to try and get underneath. There's no quite space there yet. All in all, when you put all of that system together, you get fun racing. Is it perfect? No, let's say not quite. The AIs at times do not register that you're there, or maybe they just don't want to give you space. Brands Hatch in particular, I have had trouble whereby I've been alongside a car and they've just turned into me to push me off the circuit. It does seem to be Brands Hatch the predominant place. Basically, if I had a bad experience, there's a good chance it was at Brands Hatch with an AI, although that's not the only place. There are a couple of other circuits, a couple of other incidents where I have done. On the whole, the positives far outweigh the negatives. I've had many more excellent races than I have had infuriating ones. I do tend to keep the rewinds on, because you never know when the AI might do something a bit silly. On the most part, it makes for a fun experience. It's not quite like the old Forza Drivatars back when they were introduced, where everything was chaos. I mean, it made it interesting, but it was just sheer chaos. Here you get some properly good racing, and there'll be races that you have that will stick with you because they were excellent. You had a fantastically fun battle. You know, we're just talking single-player stuff here. We've got a very good run. Am I going to be able to get past you? Are you going to yield? Are you going to make me work really hard for this one? I think we've got the speed that it won't matter what you want to do for us, and there we go. While on the subject of AIs, mistakes are a thing that the AIs can make. In fact, we saw a car clip the wall actually through here on our first run through. The AIs will have driver errors. They will crash out of a race from time to time. Your teammate can... Oh, I've beans that one up because you brake way earlier than I want to through there. You know what? There is a rewind function. We'll talk about that, yes. I really brake quite a lot through there. I'm still not knowing this circuit quite well enough. Let's just be early on the brakes through here. I feel like it's quite a fast corner. Oh, they don't necessarily... Well, they are going to now hold me out. Oh, no. Well, it beans that one up. Thankfully, hairpin means I get away with that just a smidge more. God, and now it's me making mistakes. Typical. Yeah, the AIs crash from time to time. Now, this isn't a... It's not going to happen every race. You're not necessarily going to make up 4 or 5 positions every race from AIs falling off the circuit, but sometimes they spin, they clip a wall, they run wide out of corners. I've seen AI cars actually lose wheels in crashes. The F1000 cars, I say, is most common. I've had it happen twice in my time racing them, but they will bin it. And again, it makes for an interesting race. It's quite natural crashes as well that they do. They'll run wide out of a corner, they'll bump into a wall. I've had an AI in the wet. I get sideways out of a corner, you see it twitch, they try to catch it, they overcorrect the other way, smack into a barrier and then spin across the track. It's this whole... It makes all the events interesting. You never know what's going to happen. You never know what's going to be around the corner. Championships, I say, can be decided on little things like that, but everything is exciting. And it makes for a really good single-player game. It makes the career mode, everything, really good fun. It makes me want to play through this game. As you can imagine, I play a lot of video games. I play a lot of racing games. And I don't necessarily have all the time in the world to enjoy certain games, but this one is one that I want to play through. I want to complete all of it because it's just fun. Between the structure of the career mode, the interesting races that we end up doing, put it all together, it is just very, very good fun. Circuit-wise, there is perhaps not the largest number of environments here. There's probably about 50-50 split between real-world circuits and fictional circuits, and I personally would like to see, well, more real-world circuits. The fictional tracks are not too bad, do not get me wrong, of course, but I would like to see a few more real-world circuits. There is Brands Hatch, there is Silverstone, there is Sydney Motorsport Park, which is great to see. It's not a track you see very often. We saw it, I drove around a shortened layout earlier. Sydney Motorsport Park, fantastic venue for racing. And yeah, I've only ever really driven it as a mod in R-Factor, I think, so it's cool to see that. They've also got the Sepang circuit in Malaysia, I think I've remembered the name, which is another track that you don't see very often outside of a Formula 1 game. You won't see it in a Formula 1 game anymore because, you know, the track's not being used anymore. I'm not very good at it, but there are some interesting track inclusions, but you might perhaps like a little bit more. The saving grace for this is that there's a lot of layouts per circuit, at least. There's 4 or 5 layouts for most circuits. Brands, of course, only has 2, but that is, you know, limited by, well, there are 2 layouts of Brands. But a lot of the fictional circuits have 4 or 5 different layouts. All the layouts can be driven in reverse. All the real-world circuit layouts can be driven in reverse as well. So if you want to drive around Sydney Motorsport Park the wrong way, go for it. There is day and night racing. Now, it isn't changeable. Likewise with the weather, yes, everything has a wet weather option, but it is not a dynamic weather system. And while it looks pretty, the rain doesn't really feel like it does much. If you are driving really high-powered cars, you know, when you're driving some of the faster tuner cars, when you're driving the NASCAR trucks and that sort of thing, yeah, in the wet they're a bit more awkward. But like this, for example, not really. I don't really feel like the car's all that much difference. It is probably slightly slower, but it doesn't make quite as much difference as you may possibly have wanted. There's no big puddles, there's no big aquaplaning going on for the car. I'm not driving this lap very well, but there we go. So, yeah, while there isn't the largest number of venues, there is a good amount of variety with the circuit layouts that there are there, with the, you know, conditions and so on. There will be enough to keep you going. There'll be enough to keep you going. You won't be getting bored of them. I do believe there are more circuits coming in DLC, etc. But, you know, for this, we're talking about what we can play with now, essentially. And yeah, there is still a good amount of racing. There are some, you know, some favourites like the San Francisco circuit with big jumps. That's always entertaining, especially when you take very fast cars over them jumps. See how far you can launch them, etc. So there we go. Now we have finished that. I will just back out of this because there's a couple of other things that I would like to talk about with this game. There are, of course, a couple of downsides to all of this. I meant to press quit. Never mind. We can do it, I think, when we're in there. First of all, it is possible the handling model won't be for everybody. Okay, as I said, I like it. Pretty much everybody I've talked to, everyone I've seen, has enjoyed driving this, but it is possible it is a little bit different to a lot of racing games that you might possibly have played. That may mean it won't work for everyone, shall we say. Now, I haven't got to these much later stage races, so I can't necessarily tell you what they are going to be like. Certainly, so far, a lot of the races have been short, and there is no way to change that. Now, it works for me. I prefer shorter races, but if you were hoping for the GT cars having longer, I say more endurance, but certainly longer races, you'll be able to set that in multiplayer, of course, but the single player, perhaps not so much. Again, it works for me. I like this. It means I get to drive lots of different cars and get through stuff and, you know, experience all sorts of different tracks, but I can also see why you might not. One of the, I say, the bigger letdowns for me is the team aspect of this. I loved the original grid for being able to build up your team, and while you do have a team here, you can't really do much with it. Yeah, you can change the name. You can change your teammate if you want, and there are a bunch of these you unlock as you go through. The further you go through the game, the better the driver you hire. They all have their attributes, they have their cars they like. So, for example, my teammate is good with touring cars, although he has actually been doing quite well in this video, which is nice to see. this person is good with a GT car. So you'll expect them to do better in a GT race, but they might not be so good at other stuff. And they have their stats. They have skill, how fast they are, how good they're at overtaking with attack, and defense, how good they are at defending. Now, loyalty, I am not 100% sure on. I presume/believe that is to do with how well they will listen to your instructions. So during a race, you can tell your teammate to attack, to defend, and so on. And I imagine how much the loyalty bar is how much they listen to your instructions. I've never really bothered with all that, I'll be honest. I kind of let them do their thing and worry about my own race, because that's the important bit at the end of the day. There are plenty of teammates to try and, you know, work your way through and try and recruit, etc. But, I mean, it's only making a small difference. I was hoping that, you know, you would be managing sponsors, you would be managing that sort of thing, managing your finances a little bit more, because while there is a livery editor, it is very limited. Am I going to be able to do this while I'm in a championship? I probably should have thought about that. Yes, I can. Fantastic. So there is a livery editor for the cars. It isn't your full-on Forza-esque livery editor, which is fine. I'm not massively horrendously surprised by all of that. You can change, so you unlock these patterns as you go through. You can change the base pattern, and then if we go into customize, you can change. Oh, if we're going to let me go into customize, do I have to apply it first? There we go. And then you can change. So you can change the base color. I want to make a nice FailRace machine. We can do such a thing, which is fine. You know, it's a good enough system. But I was hoping we would be able to choose sponsors. I was hoping we would be able to choose sponsors. You can basically just have sponsors on or off. And that's it. It's just, yeah, a little bit of a shame, really. It's a little bit of a shame that there's just not more depth to the team management. It didn't have to be a massive amount. I think the first grid did a pretty good job of dealing with that. You don't get, again, not that I was ever a massive fan of the Le Mans, but you also don't get, you know, to go through the career mode. While this is a fine, fun, structured system, you also don't get, like, the 24-hour Le Mans event turning up through the season. It's not really broken down into seasons. Again, that is something people may well have enjoyed. For me, again, me personally, I was never a big fan of that. I've never been a fan of Le Mans. Never liked the circuit. Generally tended to skip that race. But it was a nice, you know, it was a nice way of breaking the career down into seasons. There is some customization as well if you want to talk about. There's more customization of your little profile card here than I think there is of the cars. So you can choose like the little banner image up at the top. You'll unlock these as you go through, as you complete various bits and pieces. I want a shark on mine. Yep, we're going for that. A shark or is it a whale? I'm not sure. And then you get a background and so on and so forth. You can change your driver number and all that kind of thing. Although mine doesn't seem to have saved, which is a bit of a weird thing. Yeah, there's some customization of your profile, etc. All in all, it is a very fun game. There are a couple of niggles. It isn't 100% perfect. However, you will have a lot of fun with this. I have certainly had an awful lot of fun with this, and I look forward to playing more and more of this game. I do highly, highly recommend it. It is something a little bit different. It's nice to have a properly well sought out, well worked arcade racing game. The AIs are good fun to race with. It plays nicely, looks good, lots and lots of stuff to get through in the career mode, lots of interesting cars. The World Time Attack cars are bonkers. I like to see V8 supercars in a game and so on. So, yeah, I do very much recommend this game. There might be a couple of things that annoy you about it, for sure. However, the good will outweigh the bad, basically. That is going to be it, though, for this video. Thank you all very much for watching, and until next time, a goodbye.